Good.
We're good.
Good evening, everyone. This is the April 19th planning board meeting at 7 p.m. Please rise for the flag salute.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. 6-4. In the Open Public Meeting Act statement, please.
Okay. Pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act, the Sentinel and the South Jersey Times were notified of this meeting. A public notice was posted in the municipal building and on the website.
Thank you. Roll call.
Okay. Mr. Bruno?
Here.
Mr. Stefik is absent. Mrs. Flame?
Here. Loss of service.
He's absent.
Mr. Constantine?
Here.
Mr. Milady?
Here.
Mr. Kelly is absent. Mr. Schwade?
Here.
Mr. Ransom?
Here.
Mr. Clark?
Here.
Mr. Travelin?
Here.
Mr. Pett?
Here.
Thank you.
And then let's seat Mr. Ranson for Mr. Kelly this evening, please.
Very good.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 15th meeting.
I'll make a motion.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The secretary's report.
We had to see that one. For the month of March, we took in $1,300.
Okay, thank you. This time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the secretary's report.
Make a motion.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moving second, and roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
Yes.
Mr. Constantine?
Yes.
Mr. Milady?
Yes.
Mr. Schwade?
Yes.
Mr. Ransom?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Travelin?
Yes.
Mr. Pett?
Yes. Moving on down to the next agenda item, the approval of resolutions, resolution PB 22-02 for Fori Concrete. Is there a motion to accept the resolution?
I'll make a motion to accept resolution PB.
I'll second it.
22-02.
Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Resolution passes. First application tonight is Lewis and Marie KASSAB.
KASSAB.
Okay.
KASSAB.
Lewis and Marie. PB 703-L14. The applicants come forward, please.
Joe, before you do that, unless I missed it, would you have to seat Mr. Clark for Mr. Stivic?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Good catch.
Very good.
Okay, Mr. Clark for Mr. Stewart.
Sorry. Shot him with your
Should I go?
Good evening.
Hello.
Mike, is paperwork all in order?
Yes. Yes, it is.
My board and everything here? Okay, would you swear the applicant in, please?
Sure. Raise your right hand. Swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth, and help you God.
I do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Why don't you give us an explanation of what's going on, why and what you're trying to accomplish here?
Okay, so back in 2008, we purchased 15 acres 45 years ago in hopes that our children would stay close. So my one daughter built in 2009 on our property, subdivided. So now my youngest daughter just got married last year, and you know, she wants to also reside there, home. We're getting older, so grandkids are close, kids are close, and that's our, you know, what we're looking to accomplish. So hopefully, moving forward, we can get it approved. Hopefully.
Looking at the proposed lot here, Michael or Rosemary, does somebody want to help me out here with the accessory building on the property, and how are we dealing with an accessory building without a resident, or would that be a conditional?
I think we wanted to find out from the applicant what the intent was. If the intent is to take down that barn and build a house, or to build a house on there, then that doesn't matter. So what's the intent for what you're going to do
Well,
with this lot?
the intent is, we have animals, so we need shelter for them. And there still seems to be enough property for a small dwelling to go on, but they are going to take that down as they can. But I can't give a promise of a date. I can say we promise to take it down.
Well, it could be conditional. When I look at the footprint of the house.
Yes.
And the barn, half the barn's in the footprint of the house.
Yes.
And that's, you know, if I'm correct here, we can do it conditional, you know, in order to build, the barn needs to come down to build a house, type of thing. And it's obvious because it's part of the footprint.
Right. As long as the house gets built. I mean, if the house doesn't get built, then you will have a lot with just a barn, which is what we're not allowed to have.
And then you're not allowed to do that. And that's why I'm trying to tie the two together here.
So I think we have to have some kind of time limit, otherwise we would end up with that. We would end up with a lot with
A
just
lot
an
with
accessory.
an accessory building without a home on it.
Do you have a time you can take it down?
It all depends on ordering a house and when the house is coming.
All right. So what's a reasonable time?
Well, we'll put that in our language of the resolution, but first I have a question. Were you aware that you cannot have an accessory building without a primary residence on a lot?
No.
It's not a farm.
No, I wasn't.
There was discussion of,
I did think that it had to be a little smaller, so the building.
No, the question is it an accessory building? And the answer is yes, because there's no primary residence. You can have an accessory building on a farm without a residence, but once you peel off lot 14.01 to make it its own lot, it's no longer part of your cube farm. It's a
Right.
standalone lot. And a
Okay.
standalone lot cannot have an accessory building without a primary building. I understand that possibly the zoning officer gave you some advice on this, and you were to appear in front of this board last year, and we were surprised that you came again tonight with the same request. But we could do a workaround where if we were to approve this evening, we would say, prior to getting a certificate of occupancy on the new dwelling, the barn must be demolished. That would give you ample time to design the house, build the house, and before you get the approvals from the community to move in, you would have to take the barn down. Do you understand?
Yes.
Are you in agreement with proceeding in
I'm
that
not,
direction?
so the barn can stay there until they start building,
I didn't say that. Before they move in.
before they move in. Okay.
It's called conditional. You know, that would be a condition of the resolution. We're just trying to work through, work around.
Okay. Appreciate that.
I have more questions for you, Mrs. KASSAB. As you know, our minimum frontage in the RA area is 150
Yes.
feet. And prior, for your other daughter in 2008, you did comply
Yes.
with a 1.5 acre lot with 150 foot.
Yes.
Today, you're asking for much less frontage, and I did some measuring. You have a lot of frontage on your main house. I'm assuming you live in the main house?
Yes.
Okay, according to the drawing you submitted, you have 291 feet. And then you're going to peel off 50 feet for the new lot for your newlywed daughter. Why such a small frontage? Why didn't you try to go larger?
I didn't think there would be enough on that side to where the driveway
Do you know
would
what the minimum
be.
side setback is for your residence? It's 20 feet.
Right.
And in this drawing, it indicates you have 63 and a fraction feet. So there's an additional 40 feet that could go to your daughter's property, not making this lot so minimal in frontage. Now, I've been hollered at by the chair on prior occasions for helping the applicant engineer what they wish. Why did you choose to build your daughter's driveway on the west side of your house and not the east side towards Tuckahoe Road? Because there's much more land on the east side.
I didn't know.
Because that's where we want it to be.
But I mean, what,
We want it to be on the far side of the property. Diane was over here.
Do you want-
We want a separate
Want to
driveway.
have her?
Yeah,
Brenda,
let her-
you wanna
let her come up,
forward?
yeah, 'cause-
No problem, it's not on the record yet.
she knows more than I do.
Spirit testimony, you're about to go to the chief, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you. You need your name.
So I-
Janine,
Okay.
Ms. KASSAB?
yes.
Why did you choose the west side and not the east side, knowing that there's much more land available for your property on the right-hand side?
I didn't want to cut through the middle of their primary driveway. I wanted our own separate driveway. We also wanted more acreage in the back, so we didn't want to take acreage up the front.
Did you want to own the barn?
We essentially want to take the barn down, so the
Okay.
barn wasn't an issue.
I didn't know if it was your intent to own and occupy the barn.
I-
Because now that we may be taking the barn down, it's not an issue that the barn be on that that 2-acre lot.
Yeah, we essentially wanted to take the barn down. It's an old barn, we wanted it down, we wanted to build a nice house. and-
Okay. I drove by the property yesterday, and I noticed it was a dirt driveway as opposed to being an asphalt concrete or improved with crushed stone or anything. And again, I'm not your engineer, I didn't design the drawing, but if you eliminated that large U driveway and just had one driveway, you could have much more frontage, okay, as opposed to 50 feet.
Oh, you mean on that side?
Doesn't matter if the
Yeah.
house, the new property's on the west side or on the east side. I did some calculations, and if you were to build on the right-hand side of your mother, the east side, towards Tuckahoe Road, you could have a 140-foot frontage lot and still be about 18 feet from the house, 2 feet shy of a 20-foot variance. And I would be much more comfortable with a 140-foot.
What would be the main concern of more frontage for us to build?
It complies with the law. The law clearly states you must have 150 feet of frontage. If you don't have it, we ask the applicant, tell us why you're confined to the 50 feet. And so far, you haven't explained where you show hardship that you don't have any more feet. And then our engineer actually made a comment that the driveway has to be 25 foot from the edge of the property and on either side, correct, Ed?
Yes, that's in our letter.
So the minimum frontage in that case would be 25, plus 10 foot for a driveway, if that's the minimum, plus 25 would be a minimum of 60 feet to comply with that ordinance. Where currently you're applying for a 50-foot driveway, and it's too narrow. And again, I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know about the rest of the board, but I am not comfortable.
Ed, let's go to, taking those statements into consideration, Ed, let's go to your report here and let's go through your report, please.
All right, you want to start? And I'll chime in. Sure, I'll go ahead and start us off here. So we had a few questions, and it seems like you've already gone over most of the questions we had. The primary question was, because it wasn't really listed in the application, is what are they doing with the new lot? It sounds, the testimony is the barn's going to be removed and you're going to build a brand new single-family home on the property, which removes the concern of being a use variance for having an accessory structure on the separate lot. So that's not a concern anymore, provided that if this is approved, you would condition it on that the barn comes down and a home is built. So single-family home permitted in the R8 district, no problem there. The variance required is for minimum lot frontage, as well as if they are going to build a driveway, because no plans for that were provided. That was one of our questions, as well as was how is the new lot going to be accessed? Was there going to be use the existing driveway or a new driveway? Sounds like they're proposing a new driveway on the flagpole portion of the flag lot, which, as you just said, technically requires a variance because you have to have 25-foot setbacks for every driveway. So what it looks like you need here is two separate variances, one for not having the minimum lot frontage and one for placing a driveway without being 25 feet from a side property line. And for any bulk variance, there's essentially two things you got to show in order for the board to be legally allowed to grant you the variance. You have to show the positive criteria, which is that there is some reason for them to grant the exception to the code to you, which is Either that there is some sort of practical hardship that you can't build elsewhere on the site, or can't provide 200 or 150 feet of frontage, or can't provide a driveway that's 25 feet from the side yard property line. The second option is that what you're proposing is actually a preferable alternative to what the code requires. So there's some sort of benefit to doing it the way you're proposing rather than complying with the code. The second thing you got to show, what is called the negative criteria, is that you're not, there's not going to be any substantial detriment to the community, that you're not causing any public harm by what you're proposing. The board has to have a finding on both of those in order for them to be able to grant a variance to you. And that's for each of those variances. So that covers the variances. And for I have to say, if the barn is coming down, everything in our report related to the location of the barn and any potential variance for that would no longer apply. So that would be, if the barn currently encroaches on the 50-foot agricultural setback, so that, they wouldn't need a variance for that if the barn is coming down. Let's see. Yeah, don't have to clarify the height of the barn, that's irrelevant now. I did have a question, although it's not entirely related to the subdivision itself, but there looks like the fence in your rear yards encroaches onto a couple of neighbors' properties. At least that's as it's shown on this survey. Do you happen to know, was that ever approved that way, or do your neighbors know that your fence is
my
encroaching?
sister.
That's your
That's
sister?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's my property.
And you get along with your sister?
Yes, I love my sister. That's the whole reason that we weren't really taking in consideration the 50-foot. My mom's never leaving Franklin Township. When she leaves Franklin Township, unfortunately, she's not going to be here anymore. Sorry.
Your sister's lot 1502?
No, she should be 13, I think.
Who's lot 1502? Just another neighbor?
Yeah, that's,
So that's the problem, is where the 50-foot.
Can someone show me that?
Way to the rear of your property on the other side of the high tension line.
So that's the property.
Oh, okay.
oh, I was going to say, because that,
This is the lot we want to know. You're saying that this is you and this is your sister.
This is the
This
tenant.
back line. Yep. This then encroaches, this fence line encroaches on their property. And this
Well,
one,
this-
you have 50
This
foot.
lady here, this one back here is a whole different neighbor. That's not this house here. Out back here is a racetrack and everything else.
So 1501 is a separate lot.
yeah, that's not even ours.
Not
No.
this lady up there at 1502.
Okay, so this driveway we have to worry about with this baby right here, because that's the encroachment. That you can't make the 50 feet, you need it 100.
Well, that's where she dumps all her horse manure on that. I know where you're talking about. It's where she dumps all her stuff on the side of the track.
Oh, yeah, all our trash, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Mrs. Kassab, behind your property, beyond the pond, is lot 5. And according to the survey, the fence makes a large triangular portion beyond the property line in the back.
There's a creek that runs through, and our stakes are right behind the creek, and then our fence is before the creek, in front of it.
I understand, but when you look at the drawing, your survey, there's a rather large portion, it could be a half an acre or more, that's a triangular portion. If you'd like to come up and see it.
Yeah, because you can understand that better than I can.
Okay.
See it down the line, that's a fence line.
Fence has been there for 60 years.
Do you know who owns the property behind you?
I have no idea.
We do.
Yeah, I was going to say, the township owns behind us, because my husband wanted to look into buying it, actually.
No, and that, really, that's not,
Yeah.
that's not.
Well, if need be, it's a
under
few posts and some
part of
fence that can come right on down.
Right down.
It's a point of information, but it's not actually part of the application. So, does anybody else have any other questions for the applicant?
Is that lot 5 landlocked, just out of curiosity?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I know it's all woods back in there.
Yeah, it's-
but I'm not sure.
It's all wetlands and all.
Lock it up.
Doesn't really impact anything here.
I'll make a motion to approve this conditionally with the 2 variances and the condition that the barn is removed.
Did we have to open it to the public portion?
Yeah. We do.
Mike, we had news on this, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Any,
Sorry, I just
Yeah,
couldn't hold back.
no, you're right, actually, you're right. I need to, oh, Kevin, you have a question down here, I'm sorry.
No.
All right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion to open the, this application to the public.
Make a motion.
I have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, this time, this application is open to public comment. Anyone have comment on this application?
Motion to close public portion.
Moves, second, moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we're back. Does anybody have any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just step in real
Go ahead.
quick. Just to continue on with our letter, we had a few comments regarding the subdivision mapping itself. I'm not going to go through all the comments unless you guys would like me to.
No, the important ones are the ones that need to be.
Yeah,
addressed.
that Chris already touched upon them. Just to touch on the last two, comments 13 and 14, in accordance with the township ordinance, a fee of $200 per lot shall be paid to the recreational facility / open space fund, and then any approval should be conditioned to posting any required affordable housing development fees in accordance with Chapter 138 of the Township Code. So,
If I can interject, that's an old standard we used to do, and then they told us to stop taking recreation open space
Yeah.
because it was illegal.
Wow.
It may be
Yeah.
tucked in there someplace, but it's supposed to have been taken out.
All right, let's strike, yeah, we're going to strike 13 because that open space fund,
Thank you.
but 14 would stay, correct? We're still on the affordable housing.
yes.
Okay.
I think Joanne, a couple other items
Okay.
in their letter that I think we should address.
Go
Number
ahead.
5 was requiring an LOI. Is that something that's...
So based on the New Jersey GeoWeb mapping, there appears to be wetlands on the existing Lot 14, which would be on proposed Lot 14. It would not necessarily affect Lot 14.01. However, it should be something that should be taken into consideration in terms of determining the, applicability of the wetlands on the premises.
So you're saying would not be necessary because of the house? where
I
they're
mean,
building the house?
from my understanding, the survey of where the wetlands are shown, it should be depicted on the drawing. However, it appears based on GeoWeb that it won't be affecting the new proposed lot. It would just be affecting the current lot.
So you're okay with it as is based on
Yeah, it affects lot 14. It does not appear to affect
affect
14.1.
the new lot? Got it.
Then the sidewalks, there, we should officially deal with that issue because they would need sidewalks, but it's indicated there aren't any in the area.
Correct. Now, I actually do have a question. I believe we have in the past recommended that there is a fund for sidewalks, that if they don't actually contribute, they contribute to a fund instead of putting in sidewalks. There's no sidewalks all along Sheridan Avenue, so we don't recommend, having them be installed.
Mike, do you remember that? I don't recall that.
I don't either, unless it was something a long time ago that Jay Munier was interjecting.
I-
I don't recall it at all.
Could you quote where it comes in under 253?
Hold up. If I recall, sidewalks are technically required for major subdivisions and site plans, and this is a minor subdivision, so I don't know that it's
Correct.
technically required here.
Correct.
And if there's no recommendation.
And the last thing was the grading and drainage plan. I'm assuming that
That is a standard township requirement that is separate from the application before the board.
the only other question I had was about the timing on the barn, whether we would, I know you indicated that it would be before they get a CO, but if for some reason it did not build the house, then you would have a lot with a barn. So if we made it, I don't know how much time they need, it's going to be a year by the time you...
I would say at least a year.
Major subdivision, okay, yeah. Well, technically not required this.
You wouldn't be able to get a CO
Just think there's just,
So you would, yeah, so it would be, wouldn't matter.
I heard one, I heard five. When we split the distance ago with 3 years, that the barn needs to be removed, the house needs to be built, the barn needs to be removed. I think I agree with John that a year, by the time plans and construction and all that is a little tight. 5 is an open window there. If the applicant's okay, maybe something like 3 years, barn's got to come down.
Okay.
Even if the house not built, the barn has to
Okay.
come down.
Okay.
So it gives you some avenue there
Okay.
as well.
So there's a motion on the floor?
Not yet. I have a question for our solicitor. Because of the variances that are required, it is customary for the applicant to show positive criteria and negative criteria, and those thresholds have to be met. And typically, in this case, I don't see a hardship has been established based on the square footage and linear frontage. So my question to you is, do you believe they've met the negative criteria as well as the positive criteria?
well, I think that our engineer, or actually our planner, Chris, laid out the positive and negative criteria. It's up to the applicant to make the presentation and for the board to make the determination. So to correctly set forth the standards, the board has to determine whether what they presented meets that standard. It wouldn't be my determination.
And just to clarify, the one thing for the positive criteria, there's two ways they can meet that. They can either show that there's a practical hardship, which is the standard of, well, my lot is too narrow to meet a side yard setback, therefore I can't build a house that's only going to be, 8 feet wide, something like that. The other option is they show that what they're proposing is a preferable alternative, that there's some sort of greater benefit to doing it the way they want to do it over strictly conforming to the code. That's what's called the flexible C bulk variance. And then the negative criteria is always the same. It's no substantial detriment to the community and not substantially impairing the intent or purpose of the zoning ordinance, which in plain speak means that they're not going to harm their neighbors, and that they're not, and if you are granting the variance, you're not usurping the governing body's authority to set the zoning, but you're saying that there's a special reason to allow an exception here. So for the positive, it's one or the other, either there's a hardship or what they're doing something is generally better or preferable to strictly conforming.
Thank you.
With that in mind, Ms. Crusher, the lot 1502, which is the house to the left or towards Stanton, there's no property there to buy, correct? There's an established home there.
Yes.
And although I don't show the footage there, so there's really no, when you talk about positive and negative, there's no ability to pick up additional frontage to the opposite side of the property because there's a dwelling there. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? All right, Jake, you started with a motion earlier. Would you like to continue with that at this point?
Yes.
Okay. And your motion was approval.
Correct.
Based on the engineer's comments, the two variants required for the frontage issue. The barn has come down. The barn has to come down within three-year timeline. Was there anything else?
Are your neighbors aware of the proposal, like with your driveway? I'm assuming they.
Yeah, she's excited. She can't wait.
And your woods that go between.
Trust me, she can't wait.
She's excited. for all
She's
the dead
excited
trees
to get
come down.
everything down.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'll make a second to.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, then roll call vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Mr. Constantine?
Yes.
Mr. Malady?
Yes.
Mrs. Excuse me, Mr. Swade?
Yes.
Mr. Ransom?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Travlin?
I'm going to vote no because I felt the applicant had a lot of land on the east side where a wider lot could have been maintained. So I vote no, and that's why I voted no.
To build the house there as well?
You could build you can have a
The driveway.
driveway that's much wider than 50 feet. And you could actually have a 140-foot wide lot on the east side, slightly narrower than your sister's, and she obviously has enough room for her home. And based on those comments, that's why I'm voting no.
Okay, you're voting no.
Okay.
Mr. Patch?
Yes. I have a tally of 1 no, 1 abstention, and 7 yeses. The motion carries. Congratulations.
Oh, yay, thanks. I was like, what's that mean?
That means yes.
Thank you, thank you.
It's not easy being up there.
She needed backup.
I think I know. Do I need anything? Do I need to sign anything? Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Okay, the next application this evening is KOMITO, PB 1301-L7. I'm sorry, PB 22-03. Number here.
We're not using our screens, Steve?
Actually, it says burn the claim.
Steve, do you have a second one or no?
I don't, forgot.
Well, I think they don't have that up here, so if you could turn it, like so that, so that's the only side that's in the audience, so they can see it.
Should I
as
go,
well.
I'll go over,
Either over there or over in front of us. It doesn't-
go to the left over here, or?
So they can turn it. Yeah.
We could have put it on.
I should have heard, I just forgot that.
I know, it's been a while,
It's been a while.
2 years probably.
Yeah.
Thank you. Can you guys see it, or you want to move forward?
Good evening, Mr. Camino. Mr. Philpone.
Good evening.
Well, first off, appearing again, I don't see any requirements to qualify your qualifications. Means you appeared in front of this board numerous times, but why don't we have Mr. Burley swear Mr. Camino in for this evening, because I'm assuming he has testimony.
Yes. Swear both of you. I swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. All right.
Good evening.
That's louder than you hear up there.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Good evening. My name is Joe KOMITO, and I'm here for a minor subdivision of Block 1306, Lot 17. And I'm here with my engineer, Steve Philpone, and he's. I'd like to turn the podium over to him to go over some more of the
Thank you.
details.
Thank you. I'll, if I could walk over to the rendering. By virtue of background, Joe is the owner of a 16-acre lot at the end of Franklin Street. Joe's intention tonight is to construct a house for himself on the northern part, 8-acre lot, and for his brother Andrew to build a house. Joe is in the local fire department, Starcross Fire Department, for about 8 years. He is an EMT, and you know, I think it would be such a benefit to the neighborhood having a fireman and an EMT move in the neighborhood and sort of keep an eye on the residents. To get to this particular property, there's 8 lots on Nelson Avenue. The drawing doesn't show Nelson, but when you come to the intersection of Nelson, you start to go down Franklin Street. There's 3 houses on Franklin Street, and Franklin Street ends, the paved section of Franklin Street ends 200 feet shy of this particular property. Our proposal this evening is to, and your municipal engineer Jim Winkowski and Ed DiMarmento met me last Wednesday on the property, nice enough to meet me after we filed this application. Our proposal is to improve Franklin Street to municipal standards. Municipal standards for this particular property in Franklin Street is a 15 feet wide paved asphalt roadway. We're under the requirements for major development, so no drainage is required for that section of roadway, but it's always a good thing to look at the property. When we looked at it, and I know this property for quite a while, there's some natural drainage areas, so to pave a section of roadway 200 feet long, 15 feet wide, where there's already gravel in place, in my opinion, will not cause any detriment to this immediate area. So our intention again is to pave Franklin Street. Once we arrive onto the property, our request tonight is to subdivide. Our property only has 50 feet of frontage at the terminus of Franklin Street. So our plan is to subdivide down through the middle, giving each of these 8-acre lots 25 feet. We'll continue the asphalt paving for a section and create an easement so that each half of that 15-foot driveway on private property will be on Joe's lot, and the other half of that driveway will be on his brother Andrew's lot. There's 2 gas mains that run, easements that run through the property and run under Franklin Street. We're having those physically located so that we know where they are, that when they build a house, build a road, we're not obstructing or interfering with these gas mains. A couple other physical features, there's a wooded buffer in green to the northern side. It's about 60 to 75 feet. This will remain in place. This buffer will, in my opinion, benefit. It's a buffer that the neighborhood on Nelson Avenue, they benefit, we benefit. We create leave a natural vegetative buffer there for the construction of the 2 houses. The 2 houses are going to be built on a very high portion of property. I've done soil borings many years ago on this piece of property. There's no difficulty with building here. As a matter of fact, we looked at this property about 15 years ago for somebody and the sketch that I did back then was to create a cul-de-sac with 6 conforming lots. And I think tonight my testimony is that this is a much better plan. A cul-de-sac with drainage basins, lighting behind houses on the street, drainage, to develop a piece of property is best, in my opinion, to construct 2 houses. That seems to be the least detriment to the existing neighborhood. So I think that goes to the positive criteria. To the southern part of the lot, it's shaded in gray. We've shown a 50-foot agricultural buffer that's required by ordinance, and that'll remain. So again, our application tonight is pretty straightforward. 2 lots. We need relief on 25 feet of frontage for each of the 2 lots. One other thing that Joe and his brother Andrew have agreed to do, and we've talked in a lot of detail in the planning of this, they've agreed to take their trash and recycling and take it out to the intersection of Nelson and Franklin Street. The neighbors on Franklin Street drag their trash to that intersection, and Joe and his brother Andrew will agree to do the same thing. So we're trying to stay consistent, we're trying to be good neighbors, and we're trying to develop a 16-acre lot into 2 residential dwellings. Joe has lived in the community for a number of years. He's living with his parents just outside the community. He wants to get back, raise his family. His brother, who's a firefighter also at Starcross, wants to do the exact same thing. So I feel very honored to help Joe out with this application. I think it's a good application. I've read your engineer's report. We agree to all the conditions. One of the conditions that should be discussed is the construction of Franklin Street. To protect the township, we can't have 2 houses built without that street completed. So what will occur tonight if we're successful? I'll prepare a road improvement plan. Your municipal engineer will review it. He'll approve it. I'll have a cost estimate associated with that. My recommendation to Joe, and part of this approval, should be the completion of that road before he moves into the 2 houses. If the timing of the year is such that it's November, it's December, the road's not completed, the houses are nearing completion, he will need to place a bond or a letter of credit to guarantee that that road gets completed. So we want to make sure the township has guarantees, we want to make sure that road gets built, and it's in your engineer's report, and we obviously agree to that condition. So with that, I just want to turn it back over to the board. Joe, I don't know if I missed anything.
No, I think
any
you
other
covered it all,
plans
Steve.
you have? I know I've been working with you. You're excited to move back into the community.
Just want to raise our kids here in the town.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Michael, I should have started earlier on. The applicant, as stated earlier, I am familiar with the applicant, and I'm familiar with his brother. They're both in the same fire department as myself. I don't feel I have a conflict here. There's no financial benefits. There's no relationship other than the fact that we're both in the same department within the community. So I just want to run that to make sure, but I don't feel I have any kind of conflict knowing the applicant. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to hear over just about every applicant that comes in here. So anyway, with that said, Steve, Mr. Philpott.
That's good. No, being the member of the same fire department would not be in and of itself a conflict.
Okay.
We didn't deal with notice in the beginning. There was proper notice.
Okay. Thank you.
My name appears on the list of property owners.
So you have a copy?
Yeah, just wanted to clarify that was a property I owned and it was been sold more than 2 months ago, so I do not have any interest in any property within 200 feet. I was sold in the beginning of February.
Good pickup. I did see the emails going back and forth. Good catch as well, and put that on the record as well. Mr. Philpott, you had mentioned the trash piece of it. Is it my understanding, would that also extend out to the school bus piece of it as well?
Yeah, yes, it will.
So the school buses would be, or the children would be going out to the intersection of Franklin and Nelson?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, and your brother Andrew too understands.
Yeah.
We've had many conversations about trash, school,
Yeah.
recycling, yes.
Yeah, mail,
Yes.
even the mail's out at the corner too,
Okay.
that's fine.
All right, understood. All right. Why don't we do our engineer's report? Chris, Ed, who wants to take the lead on that?
I'll go first. Yes. So just to echo Mr. Philippone's comments, myself and Jim Winkowski from our office met with him on the 13th of April regarding the proposed plan. I'll just highlight 2 of the points that he has already discussed. In terms of the width of the street, it was discussed that the minimum standard that would need to be met would be 18 foot, which is the minimum per RSIS. However, there are additional items that are listed that are technically required, as in curbing and sidewalk. However, we recommend that these not be implemented in order to be consistent with the characteristics of the adjoining neighborhood. And a conceptual grading and stormwater management plan needed to construct the road extension were discussed, and Mr. Philippone has agreed to submit that to our office for review to be in accordance with all the township ordinances and standards required. Additionally, it is recommended that a condition of approval be the performance guarantees are required for any public improvements prior to filing a subdivision or building permit that generates the needs for the improvements, and to be consistent with 253-31D, the posting of a bond may be waived provided a written personal performance guarantee is supplied by the owner of the property that may be, or that will be responsible for the improvements, as Mr. Philippone has previously stated. In addition to that, our other comment from an engineering standpoint is an approved grading plan will be required to be submitted for review to the township engineer as per the municipal ordinance prior to an issuance of a building permit.
Okay.
Just want to join it. From a planning and zoning perspective, this one's pretty simple and straightforward. It's a large, I think, a little over 16-acre property. They're basically splitting it in half. The only variance they need is for lack of appropriate street frontage, just like the flag lot we just reviewed, although this one's a little bit different. I think it's just over 50 feet in total the existing property has on what is right now an unfinished end of a dead-end street. They're proposing to basically take the portion of the street that is technically public right-of-way and improve that up to the residential site improvement standards, and then the portion at the end of the street to go onto their properties, use it as just a private driveway, which is really what this is. The testimony they provided is, to put it in the planning speak we were saying before, more or less there's no way they can provide 150 feet of frontage for 2 lots when they only have 50 feet of frontage total. And it sounded like the testimony also was that they're saying this is a preferable alternative in terms of there would be a possibility to, if they extended Franklin Street down as a full street and then pulled a cul-de-sac into the middle of those properties, they could do, I guess, 6 to 8 conforming lots. But I think they're proposing that doing just 2 lots here would be preferable than extending a street with a full cul-de-sac down there to do 6 to 8 lots. So really, the only variance needed here is for the lack of street frontage. And one other minor comment is, since they don't have street frontage right now on an actual improved street, technically, this doesn't meet the definition of a minor subdivision. It's actually a major subdivision. That doesn't really change anything in terms of what you're approving tonight. It just means that now technically, they would be otherwise required to include sidewalks along the public right-of-way. But I don't know that that's really necessary here, because what we're talking about is really just going to be their driveway. So that would be up to you as the board whether or not you wanted to require sidewalks on Franklin Street, but between Jim, Ed, and I, we're not necessarily recommending it, because like I said, it's really going to be just their driveway and not a public right-of-way where people are going back and forth, because it's a dead-end street.
Thank you.
And that's all. Thanks.
Any questions for the engineers? No. This time I entertain a motion to open it to the public, please.
So moved.
A motion is second.
Second.
At this time, we're open to the public. Is there any public comment? Joe, yeah, Steve, step aside, please.
Hey, Jason. Good evening, Jason Brant, 688 Rosemont Avenue.
Jason.
Sir, testimony about to give the truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I'm not going to testify. I'm going to ask a question, but if I do testify, I swear it's true.
Okay.
The question, I have a question. It's not necessarily related to this application, but in hearing it, I figured I'd take advantage of getting free legal advice. The applicant in this particular situation, in any situation, is to rely upon an owner's list from the tax office when giving their notice. If an applicant has knowledge that that list is inaccurate, in your case, is the applicant required to then send notice to the next owner, or can they rely upon the assessor's list?
In this case, they happen to have been advised who that person was, and they did give notice.
Right.
That's not necessary. In order to make the system keep moving, municipal land use law says you can rely on that list. So it can be a situation where somebody could have a major development next to them, but if it didn't show up on the list because they just moved in there 30 days before, they may never get notice. So the answer is yes, they can rely on the list even if there's a mistake on the address, as a wrong zip or a wrong street. If that's where they mail it, they've complied with notice.
Thank you. Just saved me $100.
It's all right, Jason, we'll send you the bill. Okay. And no other public? All right, this time I entertain a motion to close public portion. Motion. Moved and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
I had a couple follow-up questions. So you do own, you and your brother own the property already?
Yes.
Okay. And what are you going to do with the rest of the?
Just farm it.
Just farm it?
Yeah, we've already contacted the current farmer. He's going to continue to farm it.
And Steve, you were talking about the approval for the church and the lots way back.
Many years ago.
Okay, so we're just assuming that's abandoned?
Yes, it's expired.
Okay. That's the only questions I had.
I was here for the church approval.
Yeah.
I was here when the six lots. So of the three, well, I gotta be careful about the church deal. The other application is a much cleaner or much less intense than the 6 homes and cul-de-sac of the past. All right, public comment in board questions. I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve PB 22-03.
I'll second that. I have a motion and a second.
Can I have a question?
Yep.
On that paper street, so because it still remains as a paper street, then at that property line towards the front, there's no borders, there's no gates, there's no fencing going up to block that street off, correct?
We're
going to approve Franklin Street down to the property line.
We're going to approve it down to the property line.
And then it's going to go to a driveway at that point, correct?
That's exactly right. There's a couple of small, directional, some of the residents have put a couple of signposts up. We're going to move those out of the way. We talked to one of the neighbors when we were out there. She was happy, that we were doing this, but we'll make sure the neighborhood is restored to it, but there's no blocking, there's no
gates,
no, there's not.
Right, I don't want to, then people coming back saying paper street and how that goes.
It's a very good question.
And then, of course, the next one goes into busing, and even though there may not be any kids in the plan at this point, I want to make sure that we understand that for the record, paper streets and busing, 12 foot wide, I don't think meets our requirements.
Okay. The road will be improved, I want to know if I was clear, 18 feet wide.
I'm gonna have a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, with the busing, you need a place to turn around.
Right.
So just to clarify, are there gonna be conditions, basically our engineering comments A and B, as Mr. Philippone had previously stated, that would be addressed?
Yes, and that's why I'm going back to the motion, or I'm heading back here. To Committeewoman, huh? Yeah. To Committeewoman's Flame, question there. The testimony's on record that there will be no buses going down. The buses are going to Franklin and Nelson, just like the trash. So everything's going out.
That'll be in the form of a resolution?
Is that necessary? Yeah, I guess it would be.
We've had that happen before, and
Yeah.
so, I mean, the only way you could really make it stick forever is to put it in the deed. So if somebody buys it, they have the same restriction. But we have had it happen in the past, at least having in the resolution, there's something you can show someone if it comes up.
Right.
So yes, it would be a condition in the resolution.
Yeah, I think so. And at least that way, we showed the intent of the board at that time.
Right, that's
of the
all.
thinking of the board.
Okay,
Okay.
so
The
Joe,
motioner down there.
Okay. I have a question for Mr. Philippone and the applicant. Is the applicant aware of rollback taxes and how much they'll be and how much?
I don't know the exact number, but I do know there's rollback taxes on the area that I plan on improving, which is gonna be less than an acre for my
Well,
house.
technically, on a Q farmland, the minimum lot size for a residence is 1 acre.
Mhm.
So for both you and your brother, each of you will have to pay the last 3 years' taxes on what it would have been if it was an improved lot and not qualified farmland.
Yes.
it's not optional, we know.
Yep.
1 acre minimum.
1 acre, okay.
Mr. Swade, on your motion there, would you be kind enough to add to the resolution that it was the intent of the applicant to have the trash removal and the school bus pickups at Franklin and Nelson, the intersection of Franklin and Nelson, and the engineer, our engineer's comments into your motion?
Make that motion.
And did I miss anybody on the legal side or the engineering side? Did I miss anything that needs to be in the resolution?
No, we'll include Mr. Philippone's comments about the bond and so forth, yes.
Correct. Got it. And is the seconder good with that?
That's a question. Do we want a performance bond posted by the applicant, or do we want a letter of credit? It's the board's decision.
Give him a choice.
The testimony, if I remember correctly, was that the street would be improved prior to the COs of the houses. And if not, and at that point, the bond would kick, the requirement of the bond would kick in. And that's why we took that's why we would be taking adding the engineer's comments into the resolution.
I think Steve said bond or letter of credit.
Bond, letter of credit, I'll prepare an estimate when I design the section of road, that you'll have that on file, but it will be a guarantee. It will be a guarantee of
One way or the other.
one way or the other.
Got it.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we touched on everything. All the professionals are good out here. Then roll call vote, please.
So I'm sorry, the motion included the application of the trash and recycle out for the road,
Trash and school bus to
And school bus.
Nelson and Franklin.
school bus, I just didn't have.
Yeah, all the engineers' comments.
And bond, et cetera, and
And the bond, yeah, the
engineers.
bonding piece on
Okay,
the road improvement.
very good. Mr. Bruno?
Hold on for a second, please.
Okay.
Are you plowing that piece of it? You got to contact the mayor. I don't know.
Did you hear the mayor's comment? He's curious if this new 18-foot extension of Franklin, will the township have to snowplow it?
Plow it down in his driveway.
You don't have to do my driveway, but you have to do your township road.
For the paper street,
There's no place to put it. And I'm not kidding.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote here, please.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mrs. Flame?
yes.
Mr. Constantine?
Yes.
Mr. Milady?
Yes.
Mr. Schwab?
Yes.
Mr. Ransom?
Yes.
Mr. Clark?
Yes.
Mr. Charlton?
Yes.
Mr. Pett?
Yes. Congratulations, gentlemen.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Listen, I'm going to pull yours out.
Okay, let's go back here and correspondence, Lynn, please.
We already touched base on the Michael Fiordalisi resolution. The letter, Michael drafted the review of the proposed ordinance 0622. Letter to Barbara Friesenmühl. And we have the reports from Ed Damiento and Chris Dockney. And the Pinelands Commission report is there from March 2022, and the Secretary's report. That was it.
That's it? Okay, and none of them were action items. Okay, very good, thank you. This time I'm entertaining a motion to open it to the public for any general comments.
Make a motion.
I have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The camera guy against the TV time.
Mr. Morris, good evening.
Good evening, Bill Morris, Oak Avenue. I just wanted to wish Lynn good luck on her retirement, that she's been an asset to the town as far as I've been coming to the meetings, and I'm sure longer than I've been coming to the meetings. So good luck on her retirement.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Warren, you interrupt me. Warren being retired.
Cindy Marks. I also want to commend Lynn for a fabulous job here for our township. And I've had to work with you for probably the last 20 with Jim Kincaid in the paper. And she's a top act, has done fabulous for this township. And we're going to miss you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Day and night.
Thank you, Cindy.
Devoted day and night.
Okay, at this time I entertain a motion to close the public portion.
Motion to close public portion.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Michael, no reason for closed session, correct?
No reason for closed session.
All right, closing comments, Lynn? I think it was back in 1992 when I first got appointed to a planning board, and...
Didn't come in until 93.
Yeah. You were here. Now you were in the office. You were in the office. You were here, and over the years, you were a true asset to whenever anything was needed. You were right there, and always cheerful and always cooperative. I wish you the very, very best in your retirement. And I wish I was walking out the door right behind you. But anyway, enjoy your retirement. Please travel, and the best of luck. Anyone else have comments to close?
I just want to echo the same sentiment. I've been here the entire time Lynn's been here. One of the other few people been here that long, and
Yeah.
it's always been a
Both
pleasure.
of you, yeah.
Always been a pleasure.
Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, no other business to come before the board. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moving second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for coming out this evening.